myself and Lau and either Rabbi Linzer, Rabbi Sarah, similar type, and I assume discussing similar issues, but this is a nicer, more intimate way to begin it, and also I'm sure it'll take other directions. So nice opportunity both today and tomorrow in order to be talking about larger issues, not just a Gemara shir or a halacha shir and so on. I'm going to open with a few words. I'll be asking Rabbi Lau some questions. I want to encourage Rabbi Lau to turn around and ask me questions. And after, we'll do that for about half hour or so, and then really open it up to all of you. I'll start by saying something that I have to speak about here in the yeshiva. You know, we spend a lot of time learning halacha. Major part of our Talmud Torah is halacha, and because it's also a major part of our religious lives. But I think one of the things that makes Chodrei Torah, I won't say unique, but distinctive, is that we believe that that's not the totality of what our religious lives are. So that I spoke about Rashi, like if all it is mitzvot or halacha, and that I think tends to be an issue, particularly I would say in America, about people really that's full definition of their religious lives, and we believe there's more to that. We believe that there is. That there's story, there's narrative. One of the things, Rav Lau, that so many things that are so amazing about you, but you're an amazing storyteller. I just came from a shir where with every source he introduced, there was like a story, and it makes a big difference if we go through our lives, not just with halacha and mitzvot, but with understanding like we're part of a story. There's a reason that there are stories in the Torah. There's a reason that there are stories in the Gemara, which is Ramban's answer to Rashi. We're supposed to live our lives with the values of the Torah, to imbue a life of Torah and mitzvot with a life of meaning and of purpose. And the other thing, which is slightly different, that I will that I will speak about, is in addition to bringing life to a life of bringing life to a life of observance. There's also a sense about what do we understand as our mission, as our purpose in life. Where are we going? And there's a very powerful Sfas Emes on Lech Lecha. We're almost up to Lech Lecha. There's a very powerful Sfas Emes on Lech Lecha, where he says, why is it that God only called to Avraham and said Lech Lecha? Like there's no preamble to that whole story, right? We don't even know. There's no sense of any relationship of anything that Avraham did, that accomplished. Why did God call Avraham and say Lech Lecha? And the Sfas Emes says, actually, God called to all of humanity and said Lech Lecha. It says every day God is calling and saying Lech Lecha. Avraham's uniqueness was that he was the only one that heard it. He heard the Lech Lecha, and that's why he went on the mission that he did. And I think this really, if we turn this to ourselves, is a question about how do we see our religious lives? You can live a life of mitzvot and also of meaning and of values, and that still falls a little short of hearing a Lech Lecha, hearing a sense of like, what are you going to accomplish? How are you going to serve God? What is your calling from God to do and to accomplish in the world? And I think that my first question that I want to turn to you, Rav Lau, and ask is, you do so much broadly in society. I could list so many of the things you do. I'm sure they'll come out. I don't want to start with a whole bio. But what I want to ask is, how is it animated by a particular sense of a type of a Lech Lecha, of a sense that you have, a divine mission, a religious mission in life to which all of the things that you do are an expression of? What is sort of animating, so much of what you do beyond what your normal Rav does, with their rabbinut?
First for me, it's a week very, I should say it's, I will not say holiday, but Gan Eden. I'm sitting in my corner, I give shiurim, talk with students, eat lunch box. Akol Gan Eden, like Bamash. You have the man from Hashem. And in Israel, I'm all time, I need to run away from situation. So first of all, תודה, it's ממש ככה. Second, I will say one word about the story. The storyteller is my brother. but the Gemara Yerushalmi said that לעולם יהא בעל שמועה נגד עיניו. This is the piece in the Yerushalmi. And when you learn Torah, you need that the Baal Shmuah, the one who say what he said, he should be in your eyes. Like Vayu Enecha Ro'ot et Morecha. You need to know him. And by that, be'emet, when you know the person that you read about, never mind it's the Taz Shach, never mind it's Rabbi Abaye v'Rav, Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Eliezer, לא משנה. No, all generations. When you know them closely, like not like a friend, but like your family and like adults, like Saba Safta, then you read them differently. And the whole machlokot in the world is completely different. So this is about the Shita. It's be'emet, the Shita is, it's like the Torah, it's a long story of life. And everyone in his position is a human being with a story. By saying that, I will quote another Sfat Emet, but from Noach. Okay, move back to Noach. It's a beautiful one. He said the Sfat Emet quote his grandfather. You know that he grew up as a Yatom. The Sfat Emet, his father passed away very, very young, and his grandfather ממש גידל אותו. His grandfather, Chidushei Harim, the one who started the whole Chassidut Gur. And so he said in the name of his grandfather, the word Boel HaTeiva. You know, suddenly we say, Boel HaTeiva, come to the ark. Boel HaTeiva. But the Chidushei Harim said that the word Teiva, in Hebrew, it's ark, but also it's a word. Teivot, in the Mishnah language. It's a revach ben Teiva leTeiva. Teiva is like a word. And then he said the Torah has so many words. A human being needs to come to the words. Because the words alone, it's not alive. The Torah shenichtav, it's just letters. Letters and letters. If you go inside the Teiva, if you go with who? The Torah said in Noach, בוא אל התיבה אתה, ואשתך, ובניך, ולשבע. Everything that you have, bring to the teiva. It's very individual. It's like a story.
Right.
You should bring your own to the teiva, and that what will happen? First of all, you will meet the teiva. You will meet the letters of the Torah. You will meet Hashem. But the Torah will meet you. And then something will happen. It's like a tree. ממש עץ חיים. The Torah will come alive because you will come to the teiva. This is ממש, it's derech of learning Torah and feel that you are not passive. You are active with the Torah and Torah all the time, every generation, continue with you. And the question if you are, what position you are taking in that story, it's hard. About Lech Lecha, to be a person of Lech Lecha, I have no answer for that because I do know that I care. I care, I should tell you that I identify myself as a second generation after the Holocaust. And I am very Israeli, as you hear already. But very Israeli mean, my mind is that Israel and the Zionut movement and all the story of Shivat Zion is Ritzon Hashem. Strongly I can say, but I say I Zioni Dati, but I openly I say that. I am Zioni because I am Dati. I mean, without Dati, I'm not sure that I will be Zioni. The idea of Zionut is because I believe that this is the voice of Hashem, like of Soloveitchik in Kol Dodidov. That I can hear that. Daily I can hear that. And when I be in my emotion about this situation of the history, I try to learn a lot history. from the time of the Tanakh to the sages all over, mean 1,000 years. And I can promise you, I cannot find even one generation in the history, except Shlomo HaMelech in the beginning, like our period. It's unbelievable, unbelievable. And because that, it's like a window in the history, and it's open. And then you say, who will keep it open? Because if it's open, the air will come, the sun will come, something will happen. But in Chas v'Chalila, this window will close. We know that we have no insurance that it will be forever. This is the tafkid of us to make the geula, the redemption, that we are there already. We need to be the one who keep it. So everyone that your student that I met one by one, that I spoke with, first question I asked, do you know exactly when you decided to be a rabbi? Do you have a moment that you decided to be a rabbi? Very interesting answers. And so for me, simply, I'm from generations of rabbis' family, and I found myself. But the truth is that when I become adult, and I felt this feeling of the open window, I said, you have no other option. You need to keep it. And then asking how you keep. So you keep it in yeshiva world, you can keep it in the synagogue, and you keep it in the state position. State position is to put yourself as a rabbi, not in the dati club, but in the whole society. I mean, if I wrote this morning a small article, so easily I can send it to the whole dati sites, to the whole newspaper of the Dati Leumi, Makor Rishon. But it's obvious, it's like selling snow to the so, but I send it to Haaretz because it's a position of keeping the window there open, not in my way. And it's a long journey.
Wow. But just to one point of clarification, the question is, what window is that? Like, you could say my chiyuv is to teach Torah to the Datiim, to the Chilonim. Datiim also need. You were talking, but the Chilonim, that's not the window. What is the window you're afraid that's being closed? What
It's a very serious question because I don't want to go deeply to that because this is my baby, the 9 to 9 project, and I don't want to mix it, but the self-identity of the Israelis, I said and upset to say it, very poor, very, very poor. If we have this meeting in Motzei Shabbat, I will not say that. Because in Motzei Shabbat we're not allowed to say anything negative about Am Yisrael. אליהו הנביא כותב זכויותיהם של ישראל. But Thursdays, we are a very successful country, you know that. So Bibi Netanyahu can stand in the United Nations and he's a hero. He is a hero. He moved Israel according economy, according technology, according many aspects. Many aspects. Medirat Israel is a strong country. But when you look inside the society, the one who saw that, named Nasrallah. You know Nasrallah from Lebanon? Hezbollah.
Yes. I don't know him.
But Nasrallah is the head of the Hezbollah. And years ago, he recorded himself in a bunker that he used to be. And he gave a speech about the Israelis and say, אנחנו לא מפחדים. We are not scared of you. You can be with F-15, you can be with the all power that you have in the military, you have the economy, you have everything with the high-tech business, but you have no roots. He said, you are a society, collection society, he said, from all over the world without roots. And because that, it will take time, but we will win. caring to hear that. I'm listening carefully to our enemies. I do listen carefully to all of them. They very often they say very serious things about us. And Nasrallah is right. I'm sad to say, Nasrallah is right. Without roots, we have no fruits. And the Israeli society should be very careful. I'm talking about the window. It's a באמת hard situation about self-identity as a Jewish democracy state. So we are very strong with liberal issues, very proud to be open to the world, but very, very poor with what we are doing there. Why we sell our kids to the army? Why we are fighting around the enemies? Why? And the why question brings so many Israelis to other places. Do you know how many Israelis decided in the last decade, last 10 years, how many Israelis decided to leave Israel to Berlin or other places? Do you know the numbers?
That's an official number.
You know, the answer should be machloket, of course. But it's unbelievable number. If we include the whole Israelis who left Israel, it's about million.
Wow.
20%. Yes, this is the number.
Since the beginning. In 10 years.
No, in the last 10 years.
10 years,
Yes.
A
Million and million mean, it's not, you know, I will tell it openly. In the 70s, after Yom Kippur War, it was a mamash gal, a wave of Israelis who left Israel, and your parents maybe met them in Brooklyn area, like taxi drivers. Many taxi drivers were Israelis who left Israel. They without Askala, they didn't learn. There wasn't academy. It was very simple people who was very upset about the war, about the country, about the economy, and left Israel. Today, when we are talking from the, let's say, not the last 10, 20 years, okay, from the 90s, it's completely different situation. The people who live in Israel, they are high-tech people from the elite units from the army. People, they make spur, and they feel that it's too tidy for them. It's chonekotam in Israel, and they are here. And my tafkid, not Benny Lau tafkid, but the one, if you say about the window, is to keep the grandchildren in Israel, but not just technically, to understand the kesher, to make the roots. And the roots is so difficult because when you are going with an ambition of, I want to make your roots, it's like, you know, I'm the full and you are empty. And this language will never help. It's never help because people clever enough, and you will come to them and say, come to learn with me, they will not close the door. They will lock it. Because they don't want to move from their own land. You know, for them, I am primitive. And they don't want to be in my area. So how you do that? To be with them, with the Western beliefs, you know, culture, with open liberal ideas, and say you have your own roots. I told some of you that article that I wrote this morning is about wedding that happened yesterday. A well-known journalist, Arab Israeli means she worked in the Israeli media, not in the Arab media. She's one of the writers in 9 to 9. Okay, she's very close to the what's happening in Israeli culture. And these women surprised all country by marrying a very well-known actor from the media, from Fauda, the center of Fauda. So Zahi Halevi, Halevi married Lucy Arish. and the whole country, חוגגים, celebrate the wedding. Mixes, kaka, mixed marriage, all country in the media. It's not the whole country. And if some of the journalists will say one word that, it's mixed marriage, they will say, gizanot, racism. So the article that I wrote to Haaretz, don't call me racist. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm fighter in Israel about human rights from the Torah. Mm-hmm. This is one of the things that I'm working hard about all human rights. And I'm working on that, and people know that. The IDI, the Israeli Democracy Institute, I'm a member there. Very liberal, very secular institute, and I'm there. But you will not push me to a corner that if I'm not celebrate the wedding, so I'm racist. No. Mm-hmm. No, I pray that my kids will marry with Jews. And I will not accept if not. Mm. So it's hard. This is kind of a cultural war. Mm. This is a window. So בשוכבך ובקומך ובלכתך בדרך. We have no, באמת, it's truly, when I'm sitting here, learning Torah, הלכות שבת, הלכות כשרות, it's like, wow, it's a privilege. But it's not a joke. You are in a privileged situation, and you need to take it seriously, because later on, when you find yourself in the field, you will not have such privilege. Ask your chief rabbi. The Rosh Yeshiva spent I don't know how many hours to deal with subject that because he is in the front of the situation, right? Prefer to sit and learn Masechet Chulin or Menachot. But when you are jump over the leadership area, then the Gan Eden is so keep it, just keep it, take it very seriously.
So now you have to ask me a question.
באמת, I'm watching you for the last 4 days. באמת, it's a question. I open, בסדר? The חובבי תורה, in the Israeli eyes, בסדר? When people ask me, מה זה חובבי תורה? It's a group of rabbis who decided to leave YU. Because YU was too, they didn't prepare rabbis well. They didn't understand exactly how to make rabbis in a tafkid of manigei kehilot, and some aspects of liberal values was narrow in what they tried to. Now, we know, my brother learned in the JTS. So we are in what's called קבוצות, groups of, נכון, labelers. אנחנו מזוהים. I would say that.
Yeah, it's like,
identify.
Yeah,
like
in separate silos.
So, I want, as a Rosh Yeshiva, נכון, I asked the students, and I publicly ask you, נכון, in Israel, we are in a position that we jump over this question of where exactly they will put me. You know, there are many rabbis who will love to think that I'm reform, but I'm not. So they're upset. But in Israel, it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum that we say all over it. And then you can do one step, but it's too far. You know, for example, who is in the border in Israel and say, if I ask, he's Orthodox or not? So Ramban, absolutely inside the Orthodox world. שירה חדשה, מחלוקת. Hartman, like one. So in my age, in the 80s, when I learned in yeshiva, it was clear that Gush and Hartman can't live together. It was clear that it's two machanot. Rav Lichtenstein will not let any student of him to learn in Hartman. It was לעבור את הגבול. Today in Israel, it's not. Today it's a spectrum. And I want to ask you about that, about the גבולות and the expectations of the Talmudim going from side to side or between the options. Just an example, okay? When you spoke about listen to a human being, when you just started, the name who raised immediately to me was Heschel. Heschel is legitimate to bring to the yeshiva. In YU, it's a question, right? Yeah.
So that's the question, like, in terms of what is the conversation that is the boundaries within the yeshiva?
What you bring to the yeshiva, what allowed to bring, what you prefer not. You know, of Liechtenstein never used publicly of Shaul Lieberman to Sefta.
Yeah.
I know.
We have it right there on the show.
No, it's interesting.
Right. And I think we have Heschel over there. So yeah.
Neil Benilau says.
It's not outside. That's a lochut for machaneh. I want to. Before I respond, I want to say something about this issue about what I see as this question about lines, and from my perspective, between Israel and America, because my sense was that you are blessed in Israel to not have, until very, very recently, the history of denominations. You had Dati and Chiloni, and I see that has freed you in multiple ways. One way is that nowadays, when you want to, let's say something comes up with a woman's issue, all of a sudden it's so laden with these issues of, woman's going to do this and show conservative Judaism. It's so laden with the identity issues. Ironically, you know where you find some of the make-up psakim for women's issues? In Rav Avadia. Because for him, which is Sephardi even, and women's role, but it's about just, why should you stop a woman who wants to have a bat mitzvah, who wants to do birchat hagoma, they want to participate more? So, yes.
Story.
Okay.
Good one. Okay. Excellent one.
Yes.
I was very close to Rav Avadia. Very, very close. And close mean private meetings, a lot of. So when I spent as a rabbi in kibbutz Sad, when kibbutzim, all this area of villages in the Negev, Ekved, and a day before the internet, before the mobile. Okay, you believe that we lived in the period before the mobile, before the internet. We are in the history, So it was in the I think 89 or 19, something like that. A friend of mine was a rabbi in Moshav, a village, in the Negev. It's not a town, Ayara, a small town. The close to his village was Ofakim, about 45 minutes driving from the village to Ofakim. Ofakim, it's also a province, but that was the closest. Okay. Erev Purim, okay, min Ta'anit Esther, afternoon, I had phone call, phone call mean with the chut. I had phone call from my friend, the rabbi of the Moshav. Say, Benny, you must help. It was the voice was so lavish. Benny, you need to help me. I said, what kara? I'm sick. It was afternoon. Afternoon means just minutes before Mincha time. Now, after Mincha time, they do very fast, it's a fast day. Very kacha, immediately they do Arvit, and immediately after Arvit, Kriyat Megillah. Kacha, very fast. They said, I can't read the Megillah. I'm sick. And no one in my village know how to read Megillah except my daughter. The daughter heard her father, he exercise himself, practice himself so many times. So she was musicality, and she learned the Megillah. So the only one in the village who know to read Megillah by heart, the Abacheli, 15 years old. Can you ask Avadia if she can read the Megillah? Now it was in the old days. No one asked a question like that.
Right.
It was the feminism. Blue Greenberg didn't bring it to Israel yet. So it wasn't.
Right.
No one talked about it. No one talked about it. I found Rav Ovadia. It was much minutes before. Now in Jerusalem it wasn't pouring. I found Rav Ovadia. His mazkir answered me, immediately gave it to me. And I said to the Rav, I said, this is the situation. And he started shouting on me and said, תגיד לו, היה לו קול כזה, תגיד לו, שהבת תקרא את המגילה. The girl will read the Megillah to the whole village with brachot. And then, הוא אמר קללה, ותבוא מהרה, actually גמרא.
For some people, it's a woman, right?
ותבוא מהרה שאף אחד לא יודע. תודה רבה, כבוד הרב. And all my friends say, your daughter allowed to read the Megillah to the whole village with brachot. Now,
You got it to Lord Hameira.
I didn't tell that. But then, think about the situation, okay? It was about 30 years ago. Think about the media today. You know, if this rabbi would do that, it's the first page in Ynet, and then the Haredi will kill him. No one can do that. It was TV. Sorry,
No. But if we're already talking about that, I just was saying here's an interesting thing to think about. I've had people come and saying, I'm going to Africa, I'm going here, wherever I'm going, I don't know how to read the Megillah, what can I do? So I say, can you borrow a Megillah? Yes. So Baruch Hashem, Purim does not come on a Shabbos or on a Yom Tov. So I said, get a recording, put it in your ear, as you're hearing it being read over the recording, you're reading inside the Megillah.
Do you say that just about Megillah or in addition for other subjects?
Well, if you could do it on, if not Shabbat,
If
like
someone needs to say Kaddish,
Yes.
and he's far away.
No, I'm not saying Biyotze al Yedei the telephone. I'm here reading
I
to everyone.
understand.
I'm listening to it as I'm reading it. So
Okay.
anyway,
Good
it's a
question.
good
It's about
patent.
the-
Yes,
the-
I understand. That's a different issue. Anyway.
But it's nice patent.
Yes. So
For
anyway,
Charedim, it's nice patent.
this is when there isn't a man or a woman. There's no Saturday. Anyway, so I've always perceived it that in Israel, it's very, people can say, oh, it's a reforming kazeh, but they mean with a lowercase r. They don't, it's not, and they can't really call you a reforming because you're dati, you're not chiloni, there's no...
They call it neo-reform.
But there's no identity that box they're going to put you in. The two boxes really are dati and chiloni, and I think...
The Chiloni is Orthodox, right.
Right. And I think that if you've got, you have dati people writing on biblical criticism, and there's a lot more, I perceive it, as freedom in Israel around those issues without getting put into a box. So that's just one thing I wanted to say, which I sense as a difference. It's also harder to box people because you might have a certain position about LGBTQ and a different position about Har HaBayit and whatever. That's like doesn't fit simply into the liberal conservative type of of the boxes. So within the yeshiva, yes, it's true. Obviously, every place, no matter how much we value openness and open discourse and so on, there are limits. They're not at all, to the best that I can sort of know my own mind and sort of, they're influenced by questions about somebody is going to come in and that'll lead to somebody putting a type of a label. It's a question about the values that are core and what you sort of, and what we want to sort of be modeling, and sort of communicating to the Talmidim. So, I believe like Rambam, Mikom Alamdai Hiskalti, so we have, I think that if people have, wherever they're coming from, if the hashkafot, or whatever they're writing is something that I think can be enriching, to the students, absolutely. Heschel is on our, if I feel that they are saying things that are in opposition to primary, Torah values and hashkafot and so on, they're not in the Beit Midrash. Is it possible somebody reads those and still is able to find, something from it? Yes, but that's not something that I want in our Beit Midrash. things relating to academic learning of Gemara, whatever, that's all kosher. There's no reason, but I will say that somebody once left a sefer here, or not a sefer, left a book here, and somebody said, you know what, that's in that book? And I looked at it and actually was dealing with like biblical criticism and so on, and said that doesn't belong in our Beit Midrash. Are there people who can learn biblical criticism and and gain from it and work it within a context? There are lessons to be learned and so on, but there are some things that I think are, so there are lines, but I think the lines are basically, it's not just about hashkafa, if there were, I'm trying to think what another example would be. I don't know, I guess I would ask you guys, like what are Sfarim, do you see, I know when people come into the Beit Midrash, they're impressed with the range of Sfarim that are available. Do people feel here that there are some Sfarim that or books that in theory might be here and that are noticing that they're not, or?
But I think the question was about more than just Svarim. It was about it was about also
maybe I'm interpreting it too narrowly.
The people within the Beit Midrash, and sort of, if I understood your question correctly, it's do we have certain gvulot about not just the Svarim that we allow, but about the types of
who the students are, or what
ideas and hashkafa and practice and
I think that okay. Thank you for clarifying. I was hearing it a little narrowly. Everybody here has to be committed to full halachic life. Everybody here has to believe in the Ikrei Emunah. I think that there have been students, we have had students, whether it has been in the stage of admissions, as we talk to them, or sometimes once they're even already here, that because of aspects of the way they are living their lives or the types of beliefs that they are professing, I cannot fit within an orthodox and a halachic context, and actually there have been students who have left the yeshiva as a result, have been. So in terms of the conversation and the questions, I think that, I won't say that there's no question that's off limits, especially when a question is more of a statement than a question, then that's an issue. But I think all questions, we should feel free to ask all questions if they're questions, if they're not statements.
Chama Leibovitz used to say, I had the privilege to be a student of her for a few years, and she used to say about the four children in the Haggadah, why the Rasha is Rasha. והיה כי יאמרו עליכם בניכם. She said, you're allowed to ask a question whatever you want, but you come instead same question, you declare your position, then you are out of Nachman.
Exactly.
היה כי יאמרו עליכם בניכם.
Yeah. I heard another, we go back and forth with stories, I forget who this is told of, but I think it was the Rabbi it was too early. Anyway, but somebody who, there was a maskil who was saying, I give it all up, I don't do anything, I have too many questions. So they said, you have to talk to our Rav, Gadol Ador, he'll be able to answer all your questions. So the guy comes in and he asks all his questions, and the Rav says, I can't give you an answer. So he leaves. So the student says, you couldn't give him an answer? He said, questions I can answer. Answers I can't answer. So I'll say one more thing. And again, I'm still not sure if I'm fully answering your question, but look, there are issues in terms of practice which are very, I'll get to that in a second. I'll say one more thing about sort of the admissions process, which is sometimes what I ask, I don't know, you can say whether I asked you this question, but sometimes I ask students, I say, I understand that you very much value, inclusion and whatever. Can you imagine a case where, if I feel like where you actually would say to somebody, that it's us, sir, I can't give you an aliyah, I can't count you to a minyan, I can't, whatever, and, or the reverse, if I sense maybe it's the opposite, I'll say, I understand that you're very concerned, but what are the situations you would feel you would be able to find a place for this person and so on. So I feel that they're not, But certainly if I feel that somebody can't say usser, then that's a real problem. So,
I said to
yes.
Dov just before that in English used to say sky the limited, right?
Mhm.
I mean there are no limited. But when you translate it to Hebrew, it's bring you to a completely different interpretation. Because how is it in Hebrew? Shamayim hem הגבול. Now the word shamayim, if you learn Mishnah, the language, if the Mishnah used shamayim, also the Midrash, meaning the sages' language, shamayim it's a nickname of Hashem. Shamayim bakshu rachamim. Okay, shamayim, it's not the sky. Shamayim is Hashem. So when you say shamayim hem הגבול, you say there is limited. Mean Hashem is the order of Hashem. Meaning you are trying to do a lot, but in the end, you all time shiviti Hashem lenegdi tamid. And I think that about that this is mamash mivchan. When I had the privilege to be Rosh Yeshiva in Bet Morasha, and also we have a smicha program for men and for women. It was many years ago, and student came, and I knew that how can you test that about Shamayim? That לעולם תהיה יראתו קודמת לחוכמתו. That you see that the student feels shiviti, that he is not just brilliant in academy and know how to learn, but he's standing in tefillah and Torah. Say shiviti. Shamayim hem הגבול. I think that it's.
And I'll say one more thing about that. We were with the guys who are learning kashrut, and I said a brief to our Torah the other day that the power that comes when certain things are asur, right, is that it gives weight to all of your eating. If it means that the act of eating is a meaningful activity. So if there's some things you can't eat, right, when you eat what is kosher, it now is more of a life of kiddusha. There's weight and there's meaning. So if a rav can't say asur, then the mutar doesn't have any meaning either. So I think that's a important point. But what I will say, look, I think that there are issues that we are really grappling with as a broader Orthodox community in terms of, because we're not just, we're halachic and we're Orthodox, and those two are not the same. And Orthodoxy as a community is a sociological grouping, and it has its boundaries. And sometimes those boundaries, ironically, don't make the same demands that are more makil sometimes, than the normal demands that a straight approach to halacha would lead to. But sometimes they are not halachic, but they're communal boundaries. And that is something that we are obviously, very sensitive to. And obviously a lot of the contentious issues nowadays are not around halachic questions, but they're around those boundary issues. So
many questions like that. This is my 25th year as a rabbi in kibbutz, and then later on 18 years in Yerushalayim. And many of the questions, it's not just questions, the decisions about should we or shouldn't we do some things, it's nothing to do with halakha.
right.
It's always about the effects of keeping yourself in the area that your influence still exists. Because you can do many things halachically. Just jump over the idea of Shira Chadasha. Mark Shapiro wrote all his best to show that it's kosher.
Mendel Shapiro.
Mendel Shapiro. Mendel Shapiro, he wrote, and you cannot argue. You can, but no reason to argue with that.
Right.
I mean that if someone wants to say it's halachically, it's halachically.
Right.
Then it's Sperber accept that paper. But then you ask question that it's not halachic question. If you do such thing, do you lead the people? Do you make the influence to the society? Or do you cut yourself at their cult?
Right.
And then you are not relevant anymore.
Right.
It's a completely not halachic question.
Correct. Absolutely. Okay, so now my turn to answer your question. I think that, you mentioned before the whole democratic, Israel's Jewish democratic state. I think sometimes a question that I ask myself is this yeshiva does, I think, tend to have liberal values. You know, there's a range of students, and I think we value the range of students, but, you know, certainly relative to, you know, I'm sure compared to real liberals or real progressives, you know, where we got a ways to go, Baruch Hashem. But anyway, and the question is, you know, how, when you're feeling that those liberal values are moving you to come to a certain type of a conclusion, halachically or communal policy, do you feel like, do you ask yourself, wait a minute, is this because of my liberal values, or is this because I believe that it's Torah values? And, you know, and is it necessary for you to answer to yourself that it is Torah values? What happens when you can't sort of give yourself that answer, but you still feel compelled to go in a certain direction? How do you deal with it?
It is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
I can bring many examples. The first one jump on me is the work that I did with disabilities in Israel in the halachic situation. I don't know if you know how many subjects in the disability area we in the halachic world we need to do with so many with people about shute, I mean
Intellectual
disability, with the whole spectrum,
physical disabilities, right?
Think about the idea of doing bar mitzvah to a boy, a girl, bat mitzvah, with the but hard, amok, that it cannot do anything. You do bar mitzvah, you don't do bar mitzvah. So it's what motivates you to deal with that? For years, none of the rabbis deal with that. It wasn't a question because it's an aside. So I know that what motivates me is the values of the liberal world, Western world. But when I brought myself to deal with that, I'm trying to boil a teiva, to take myself with the values to the Torah world. Now, I shouldn't say that I'm kazetzad, that it's always work. I know that I need to stand in mishpat, in front of Hashem, say, do you do that l'shem shamayim, or it's just because the outside values? And sometimes kacha, and sometimes kacha. It's not clear. And it's a hard question. It's a very hard question. So it's a question about the gays and lesbian subject. You know, it's so. What motivates us to say loudly, "B'tzelem Elohim asa et ha'adam," to keep the human being. This is the basic value of the human rights. "B'tzelem Elohim asa et ha'adam." Yachasim, the relationship between Jew and non-Jew. "B'tzelem Elohim asa et ha'adam." Everything go back to that. The human being as a created by God. And by believe that it's a liberal, it's inside or outside the Torah. So
Right.
I believe that this is the Torah, and from that everything starts. And it's so many examples that I'm confused. I know by myself that sometimes it's from the outside.
And what if somebody said, well, then what makes, and the psak is clearly illegitimate because it's being influenced by... Not nogea, but it's not, it's not because you have a negiah b'davar, it's because the psak itself isn't fully emerging from Olam HaTorah.
I give you an example about that learning. I watch your page about the Kohen in the wheelchair.
Yes.
And it was your page,
Yes.
or your...
Well, it might have been Rabbi Clapper and mine. We put it
Your
together.
Clapper,
Yeah.
right. And the whole sources about we allow, not allow to do it. I went to this subject with different sources. I found in Rashi, in Sefer Vayikra, Parashat Emor, when he said about the Baalei Mum. Baalei Mum, כתוב בתורה, לא יקרבו להקריב. Now, it's very hard to translate these three words. לא יקרבו להקריב. They're not allowed to become close to make the קורבן. נכון? זה נקרא, לא יקרבו להקריב. רש"י, there, in ויקרא כ"ג said, לא יקרבו להקריב, כמו הקריבהו נא לפחתך. This is the word that Rashi raised there. Now, הקריבהו נא לפחתך, Rashi brought it from the prophet Malachi in chapter 2. What he said, הקריבהו נא לפחתך. First of all, I'll explain the word. הקריבהו נא, it's double meaning. It's just make it korban and make it close. הקריבהו נא. Bring it to. הקריבהו נא, offer it, right. Offer it to לפחתך. הפחה, it's like the pesha, it's like the king. Now it's interesting that Malachi spoke Parsit. פחה. הקריבהו נא לפחתך. It was the time of the paras. So הקריבהו נא לפחתך, he said, what? I want to check you, the Kohanim. Malachi said, if you do a sacrifice and you want to bring a gift to the pecha, to the king, what kind of gift you will give? The elite or the third?
Right.
נכון? מה אתם תביאו לפחה? Do you allow yourself, said the prophet to the Kohanim, to bring the pecha ba'alei mum? You will never do that. But to my mikdash, you do that. נכון? So he argued with the Kohanim and said, you know how we know if what you do is right or wrong? The test is, הקריבהו נא לפחתך. If the pecha will accept it, I will accept it. Said Hashem. So Rashi, when he said, ba'alei mum in Vayikra, he said, יקרבו להקריב, he said, like, הקריבהו נא לפחתך. So I put that and say, why Rashi used that? Rashi tried to say that the test should be the society values. If the king will accept it, I will accept it. Now in the old days, surely, none of the kingdom will accept ba'alei mumim. None of them. Not as the men workers, not an animal offers, none of them. None of them. Today, the value of society is the opposite. In the parliament in Israel, if you go to the entrance, in the lobby of parliament, always people with disabilities will offer you, will guide you. If you go to restaurants, it's like mamash, it's a flag of human being. We open ourselves to ba'alei mugbaluyot. And then you said, okay, if the society said, yes, the pecha, accept it, so Hashem will accept it also. Now, what brings me to that? The Torah or the Western liberal?
The Western liberal. Because the Rashi, I thought you came with your wholeness of your personality, and you found that in Rashi.
100%.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
And I said, this is exactly Boel Ativa.
Right.
And this is my tefkid. Boel Ativa. Don't afraid. This is your belief. Right. You are part of this world. Go inside the Tiva and find it. And then, my religion didn't like it.
Also, because your approach is so much more radical, because from what comes out from your approach is that Be'er Yibane Beit HaMikdash, and you'll say Ba'alei Mumim could be against the Mefurash Psukim. I think it's only safe to say that
just
because there's no Beit HaMikdash. Just because of that Rashi.
Rashi will help me.
All right. So your turn now.
So I will share with you something interesting, because I came here with ambition to write in the spare time that I don't have, to write a sponsor about women writing Sefer Torah. And then Monday, when I came, I don't know who, the Maharat Yeshiva, some of the women told me, yes, there are articles between one of the women and Rav Dov, that she tried to write a response to that she allowed to write Sefer Torah,
Mhm.
and he cut pieces too from her response in respect way. And so, first of all, I read these two articles.
Right.
They sent it to me. And then I spoke with Rabbi about continue that, mean the ambition. I want to ask you exactly the same question they asked me. We deal with question, okay? Now, the question, we made decision what question we want to deal with and when we give up.
Mhm.
Now, the question, I can tell you that my grandfather from Poland never asked question like us.
Right.
It's a new question. And I want to ask you, if you can give me an example, question that you decided that you jump on, and question said, I don't want to touch it.
Oh, that's a good question. I was going to ask you something similar, so I'll do that for my, but not about halacha. So well, I will say that the first thing I'll say about this article, which is interesting because it goes back to your question about like what do you allow in the Beit Midrash. The woman wrote this article and she shopped it around to all the Jewish publications, whatever, Orthodox publications, and nobody would publish it. Because they would say, if we're going to publish it, then even if we write a response, the publish it. No, not much. Well, yeah, but the publishing it itself is acknowledging that it's a possibility, right? And I said, that is not the spirit of allowing all voices. It's it could be a milchama, machloket l'shem shamayim, but so anyway, so that was a decision to choose to publish it, and it might be now it's not a big deal, but at the time I agonized over that because
10 years ago.
Yes, 10 years, and and I realized l'maisa kachaya, because after it was published, she said, oh, it's been published in this journal, and she went around sort of using that as a way to say, so this is a legitimate position. But even though I guess I knew that would happen, I trusted people's intelligence that they would read my article, see it for what it is. But nevertheless, I felt that was important as a statement of open discourse. I think that there's two parts to your question. One is what do I write about? What do I write about when I could write about anything? Not that something might be dangerous to write about. But why am I writing about issues of inclusion or women or saying Kaddish for an abusive father and those types of things, and not writing about other topics? And I will say, we have here the Lindenbaum Center, and which is for us like a donation from the Lindenbaums and to be working on writing vote. And sometimes I write on these more, what I would call urgent questions, not necessarily controversial. And sometimes I write on things that are more just straight halacha, because I think it's important as a posek. You're not just a posek in issues about I'll say inclusion issues or this or that. If you're a posek halacha, you should be able to paskin arba chelkei shulchan aruch and recognize that the halacha is nogeh to arba chelkei shulchan aruch, and that we as a community, that's a serious part of what we're of our halachic lives. So, I wrote a tshuva about so would you like to guess some of the tshuvot that were the most read of our tshuvot from the Lindenbaum Center was not about, can a woman say the slichot, and, all those types of questions. The most read are, does anybody here know? Guess? People have read it, yeah?
Probably the one you wrote about snow.
Snow on Shabbat, okay, and... Yes. Yes. What? No. How long you have to wait after eating pizza with Parmesan cheese and swimming on Shabbat? So I think that, but it's anyway. I think it's important. So one thing I will say is that it's very important that you not be pigeonholed, and you can have your areas of expertise, but you have to be dealing with and show that you're dealing with all areas. But in terms of what things would I not handle, it's a good question, because I'll tell you, I don't know if I could say that I have a like a shita on that. I will tell you that things have changed for me over time. I wrote an issue about can a woman do Birkat Erusin, and I have another tshuva that I'm going to get around to write about can a woman do Sheva Brachot and under the chuppah, and when can you use a condom, and so on. And every one of those is like, do I write it? And then I get totally slammed because it's seen as, whatever, either the condom is totally taboo, that's not even a question about denominational issues or identity issues, oh my God, whatever the possibility. And, the other ones is like, oh, it's all just about the progressive. And the other time, the Seaborn needs it. So there are times that I've waited. Like, there's a reason I still haven't written the one on the condom, even though I've been working on it for 3 years. I don't need to work on it anymore. I just need to write. So I guess my answer would be that things that are highly contentious, or at the communal level, and that will sort of play into a whole narrative of agenda are the ones, as opposed to things that will be understood that I might have certain values, but what I'm doing is halacha. The ones that that could play into that narrative are the things that I am going to be much, much more careful about. So let me ask you one more question, then we'll open it for the students. What time are we ending?
At 3.
Oh, we said 3? I thought we said 3. When do you have to leave?
At 3.
I said 3:30. No, 3. I feel
I need to be in my head.
Okay, I feel very bad. I thought, okay, I lost track of time. But let's allow. I'm going to stop talking. You're the guest. We're going to allow, let's take 3 or 4 questions, and then we'll see your ability to answer all of them. So, who has some questions? Yes.
I don't know how well you know each other personally. But I was wondering, what are the nafkaminos between you, both of you, Rabbi Linzer and Rabbi Lau, hashkafa, halacha? You seem, if we're talking about a spectrum, you seem pretty close to one another. I don't know maybe there are differences between you in terms of the way you approach Yahadut that it would be interesting for us to hear.
Okay, yes.
Maybe not, maybe you're the same.
I have a question about assimilation into marriage. It's like the hot button issue. I'm very practical. Most Israelis who make Yeridah want nothing to do with Jewish communities. I think studies have shown that they assimilate even faster than American Jews. And I'd like to know why you think that is, and how can we put an end to that? But it's part of a larger question of why is there so much assimilation into marriage, and what can we do to kind of stem the tide and make Judaism more interesting, palatable to young Jews today?
Very,
And
very
this-
small question. Okay, let's take 1 or 2 more questions. Yes.
I'm curious what you think the role of diaspora Judaism is today. Small question. Specifically, I've noted, I come from, as you know, St. Louis, and a lot of people in the Orthodox community have heeded the call of all the wonderful organizations that have come to our city. Torah Mitzion Kollel, Bnei Akiva, and they've left. And our community institutions are really hurting in part because of that. So should we shut off the lights? Should we try to bring people from the other denominations into our community? What's the answer?
It's 2:58.
Okay.
1 second.
Maybe 2 minutes after 3, if I can get extra 2 minutes from you.
The most important sentence I need to say, אל תדון את חברך עד שתגיע למקומו. It's important, it's a sentence for a life. Never judge someone if you are not in his position or place. And Nachman used to say that you will never judge because you will never be in his position. Now, I think that this sentence keeps me very, very strongly to look what's happened around me, and to say I don't understand, or I don't know, or I will happy to learn, but I'm not in a position of a leader, not in my area, in immediate area, and it's important to remember that. I can talk a lot about the Israelis, a lot. I know deeply, and very באמת, ברוך השם, I know well the Israelis, I know the problematic situation. Talking about assimilation, if you live here, you grew up with a very sensitive learning what is acceptable, what not. It's like a survivor, you know, you open yourself to the all. The Israelis have no, אין להם את זה. When they move, they think that they are Jews because they are living in Israel. They speak Hebrew, they have holidays in kindergarten, they have nothing at home. They live here, go to public school because the prices of education bring nothing to home. So it's empty. This is all, it's pashut. My tafkid is to make the kesher, but I think that it's pashut that the Israelis are mamash like a teref kal. They ate them like that. And about this, the distance between Rav Tov and me, I should say, Carlas, you know, it's a question of where you put the camera, how close you put it out. If it's a close in or close out. By close out, we are like twins. If you go, you know, focus in and in and in, I believe that it's a huge, right?
Really?
Like in a microscope, you will find differences. But when you go in the frame of just go out, say we are on the same page. Mean that we care about the same thing. We do work in the same field. And with the differences between people, we are hopefully trying to do the best in each one in its own
I
place.
paskin that Bali Mumin cannot serve in the bakery.